We live in a world that never stops offering more. More to buy, more to scroll, more to numb, and more to escape. Until the wanting becomes normal and stopping feels impossible.
And somehow, the harder we chase it, the more burnt out, anxious, addicted and disconnected we become.
This is More, a podcast hosted by people with lived experience of addiction, mental health issues, trauma and neurodiversity, where the pursuit of more led us to rock bottom and has since led us to finding alternative ways to live.
Each week we have raw, honest conversations with each other and our guests, grounded in lived experience, about what the chase takes from us and what's possible when you stop running.
Through these conversations, we hear a diverse collection of stories and experiences from those who have found an alternative way to exist in the world.
These conversations are recorded in a single take, with no editing, so what you hear is real and unfiltered. Some names and places may be changed in order to protect those sharing their stories.
Welcome to More. Hi, welcome back. This is part 2 of Rudy's story. Thanks for listening along and joining us straight back at it. So yeah, where were we? You were in the madness. You were just talking about a traumatic event that had happened. What sort of age were you by this point?
I can't remember. I think 20, 21.
Okay.
Yeah, and so yeah, I think after that happened, everything kind of changed, you know. I had more fear of being out and about, you know, and it was a very traumatic thing to go through for everyone involved, you know. And yeah, I think my life started to, you know, on top of everything else, as I now know, like living in that survival mode and wearing masks and trying to fit in that environment at home, you know, for my whole life up to date. You know, it wasn't working, and I was falling back into those patterns, you know, and I wanted to get out of there. And I made, you know, my drinking would always creep back up. I'd stop for a little while, and then it would just come back, and the using. And so I had some family on the outskirts of London she was always messaging me. Excuse me. And she had said that I could go and live with her. And you know, I was wrecked quite a lot then. You know, I can't really remember, you know, my parents forcing me, you know, like, I don't think that, you know, all my mates, I think that what I remember is my mates taking the piss out of me, saying your parents are sending you away.
Yeah, like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah. But, you know, I was an adult and I wanted to get out of there as well and just try something else, you know. I was like, if I move, maybe I'll be fine, you know. Which
is what we now know
as a geographical.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is when when I moved to London, is when I started to really realise like how different my childhood and the area that I grew up in was to a lot of the people who I was meeting, and the way that I socialised and the way that I consumed alcohol and drugs was very different to, you know, it was quite normal where I grew up.
Yeah.
But it was very different to the people in the south who I was hanging out with, you know.
Yeah, I can relate.
And I also seen how, like, you know, normal family operated, living in my aunt's house, like a loving family, successful family, you know, Like, I looked up to those guys. You know, I could see they had something that, you know, part of the reason that I wanted to move away was because, you know, I felt like I wanted that opportunity to have that life, you know. And I think the one bit of advice I'll always remember from my dad is he was like, "Go, son," and he was like, "If it doesn't work, you can always just come back here and piss your life away." It's like, nothing's changing here.
Yeah.
You know, it's all, you come back and piss your life fully away here. You know, go and give it a go.
Yeah.
And, you know, I said I was going to live with them for 2 weeks, and I ended up staying for 18 months. You know, and it was great. They taught me a lot, and, you know, they didn't let me have a free ride. I remember I didn't arrive with a job or anything when I said I would. And my aunt was like, "You've got 2 weeks to get a job or you're going back up north."
Yeah.
You know, she drove me to the station the next morning, sent me into London to find work. You know, and I was like, "Oh yeah, great." Like, you know, and it'd been a few years since I played football. I wasn't really drinking. I had a few beers with my uncle. I didn't know anyone in London. I didn't, you know. And I found a football team on the way to the train station, and they were a good standard, it turns out. And so I started training with those guys and playing, and, you know, and then the boozing crept in again, you know. I found the players that liked to drink more than the other players, and we'd meet and we'd drink. You know, you weren't supposed to drink on a Friday. You weren't supposed to drink in the week.
Yeah.
You know, and the manager would be like, "Well, I can smell it on your breath," and I'd be like, you know. But I was still playing well at the same time, you know, and I guess I could see that it was slowly creeping back in, and, you know, my aunt had 2 children while I was living there, so I was like, I'm gonna, you know, leave now and let you guys be a family. And I found a place in London, and the football was going well, and I actually had like loose talks about playing in the lower leagues, playing full time, being paid to play. And then another traumatic incident happened. You know, I went back to my hometown for a mate's wedding. Went and had a few pints in the afternoon. Went and had my hair cut at my cousin's salon. Drank a bit more. You know, the usual.
Yeah. Warm up.
Yeah. And I was going to get in my minibus, which was full of all my mates, to go to a wedding, and I got hit by a car as I was crossing the road, about 40 mile an hour. And true to what I was up to then and my nature then, I came round. I didn't get in the ambulance. I still went to the wedding.
So just fucking hell, mate. Right, so you got hit by a car.
Yeah.
Knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
What, like up over the bonnet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Mate, I tried to jump out of the way of the car, so it was kind of like clipped me on the side.
Winged you.
Yeah. Kicked me across my left knee and flung me over the top. And then,
so you come around, presumably people around you, or?
Yeah, mate, loads of people around me. All the lads, like some of the lads crying because they thought I'd died.
Yeah.
You know, we're meant to be going to a wedding.
Yeah.
And I guess you have all of that adrenaline running through your body, and I'm like, do you know what? I'm sound.
Yeah, so you're no broken, no, like, you know, obviously broken bones, like big long bones or whatever.
Turns out it was very broken, mate. But yeah, just that like adrenaline, mate. I was just like, fuck it, I've come up for the wedding. I'm gonna go to the wedding.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the football lads, he was training to be a doctor, and he was like, "Mate, you need to get in the ambulance."
Yeah.
I was like, nah. And then so we get in there, and I remember getting to the wedding, and one of the lads is like, "Mate, you sure you're all right? You're limping?" And when I looked down, the car had hit me that hard across my legs my heels on my loafers had clicked together and it had shot one of the heels off.
What, the heel block?
Yeah. The heel block had blasted off. And I was like, man, it's just because I haven't got a heel block on my loafer.
Jesus.
And yeah, mate, and instead of, doing the normal thing, I stayed awake for the next 2 or 3 days, drinking and using. I even tried to play golf with my dad, and it turns out to keep him happy and to prove that I was all right.
Yeah, okay.
I remember texting him saying I've just been run over outside the house, like 2 minutes from their house.
Yeah.
And he said, just text me back something like idiot,
Yeah.
And so I was like, didn't want to show him that I was hurt. I was just like fucking trying to play golf, mate. Turns out I had broken ribs, ruptured spleen. Like, mate, I was losing sight in my right. I basically got saved halfway through the round of golf by friends who were giving me a lift back to London. But they had a tiny car and I sat in the back all the way, 2 sisters. When I got back, I just couldn't move out of the car. I went to hospital and, the injuries, they were just like, what have you been doing since that accident? Yeah, so since then,
So what injuries did you have?
So I had damaged spleen, broken ribs. I had damaged my knee and my hip. I was losing the sight. I had my sight and my feeling down my right hand side.
Yeah. From your back?
From nerve damage.
Yeah.
And then, after that, I had to lay in my aunt's bedroom for 2 weeks. I couldn't read, or I just had to lay looking at the ceiling to try and save my eyesight and make sure that my nerves repaired. I had the worst whiplash for the next 6 or 7 years, like severe whiplash.
I mean, there's no surprise.
And I had knee surgery, hip surgery. I've had 3 spine surgeries now, and chronic pain ever since that day.
Yeah.
So, it won't be far off 18 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 20 years of chronic pain.
Mate, which, we speak about a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
Is rough.
Yeah, it is rough.
On your psyche.
Yeah. And I guess this is where kind of like, the past is so complex. There's no like right or wrong answer to my demise. There's lots of clear indicators to why things have been a struggle, and I guess understanding that, I now know that I'm neurodiverse, I'm autistic, I have ADHD, I'm an addict. I used addiction as a coping mechanism in survival mode my whole life.
Yeah.
In fear my whole life, wearing masks, never fitting in my whole life, and then chucking chronic pain if it's as if like trying to fit in and wearing masks isn't all consuming enough.
Yeah.
Chronic pain just snatches your soul away from you.
Yeah, totally. It rots your brain.
Yeah.
But also it exacerbates all those other ones, doesn't it? Because you put masks on to not be just that person who's always moaning about being in pain.
Yeah.
You struggle in environments without help from outside sources.
Yeah.
It's just, it's the worst.
It is, man.
The worst wing of it.
I guess that's, mate, it gave me an excuse to use more.
Yeah.
I moved into Hackney in London. And even then, I was living beyond my means. Two years after leaving home, I was still paying drug debts off from my hometown on a monthly basis. I was partying non-stop. It was the time around when payday loans were big. I was racking up huge payday loans. In the end, I had to get help to clear them because it was killing me.
Yeah.
I was living a life that I couldn't afford. But mate, all along I kept holding jobs down.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think looking back now, you know, the harm that I caused to friends, to employers, you know, the lies, the manipulation.
Yeah.
You know, if I was in a party still, I'd be ringing a boss saying, "Oh, my back's playing up," you know, because I had that. That was my get out of jail free card, you know. And yeah, it's messed up that when you're in it, all of those ways are means to do whatever you want without any consideration for other people.
Yeah.
It's harrowing, isn't it, when you look back at it, man?
Yeah, man, crippling.
Yeah, mate, and so that kind of went on. You know, I guess what I realised in London is that looking back now in hindsight, I carried those patterns that I'd learned to survive in my hometown weren't suitable to be in that environment in London, but they were my go-to. If someone triggered me, I was fighting. You know, I never really seen any. I seen gangs fighting, you know, like street gangs, but in the pubs, I think the only fights I ever really seen in London were the ones that I was in.
Yeah.
You know, which is pretty mad. I was getting arrested, you know, I nearly went to prison a few times. I did lots of community service. I paid lots of fines, and I was adamant that this is my hometown. This is who I am. This is how I have to behave.
Yeah.
This is in me, you know. And never seeing that I was the problem. Someone else was the problem, or people, places and things were the problem.
Yeah.
But, you know, as again, when I wasn't using, I was a very quiet individual who didn't interact too much. I didn't really speak at work. I didn't speak up for myself.
Yeah.
I just went in, did what I had to do and left. And I was just leaving a completely double life constantly.
Yeah.
You know, my whole life was a double life, you know. I was highly functional, like I worked a lot. Now I know, like, you know, the patterns of numbers and things are good for my brain.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could go and do the job hungover, whatever, you know, I could make it work.
Yeah.
And then come down, whatever, just leave. And then go back to it.
Yeah.
And I just live this double life. Yeah, man. You know, just dotted around, going house to house sharing, meeting people who are doing the same, you know, and just following. You surround your people who are living that same lifestyle. But I always felt like mine was deep. I was more in it than other people.
Did you sort of have like a diverse groups of small pockets of friends that you could kind of go around? So you were never sort of really ever with one group of people long enough for them to be like,
Yeah, I think so, but I think because London's such a big place, you have people doing this and that and different parties.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, ultimately, mate, underlying the connect, I hung out with people from my hometown who are in London.
Right, okay, yeah.
You know, so it's the norm.
Yeah.
We were all at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's you know, there's some of the things that I'd be leaving those guys and going into estates and looking for more on my own and putting myself in dangerous situations in drug dens and doing things that I shouldn't have been, mate. And I think that's where, I think for me, that's where I can see that mine using was a bit different. And the things that I were doing, you know, I guess to put in perspective, like if I didn't have money, you know, I sold myself and stuff in those times when I didn't have it in London to get more. But from the outside looking in, I never told anyone. You know, I was going to work, you know, I'm living this amazing life in London.
Yeah.
But I was struggling, man.
Yeah.
And, you know.
So in a real grip of depression by this point?
Yeah, mate. And I think, like, well, as I know now, I've probably been depressed my whole life with a condition that I have, which is dysthymia. Just means that I always have that low level depression.
Yeah.
Not looking after yourself, it flares up, and I was just using through it. But living for the weekend as you did, that was it. Get to Thursday,
Yeah.
drink till Sunday, dry out for a few days, then do it over and over, drink and use, drink and
Yeah.
use. Yeah, and I had people telling me I probably had problems, but I was just like, you know what, I'm in my 20s. I'll sort this out when I need to.
Yeah.
I'm
This
all
is
right.
what everyone does.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, eventually you either just disappear.
Yeah, and then that's it. Friends all start to fall away.
Mm-hmm.
I met a partner, and I guess looking back now, I can see my very codependent patterns because I'd lived up until 27 years of just chaos and doing what I wanted. No one, not accountable to no one. No one knew how much I was drinking or using or whatever. And then when you're in this relationship, like the codependency, like, I think at first it was amazing, and then the cracks for me internally were starting to appear.
Yeah.
And the drinking was becoming an issue. I wasn't turning. We were living together and we'd have plans, but I'd still be out from the night before
Yeah.
and not showing up, and obviously it was never my intention to be doing that, but I just I couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
Once I start, like, and getting in trouble, having to call her from police cells and, not great, and putting someone who you do care about through all of that stuff, it's hard, but you can't. I couldn't see that it was a problem at that point.
Yeah.
I was just wanting to do more and more.
The pursuit of more.
Yeah.
And the selfishness that comes along with that.
Yeah.
And subconscious selfishness.
Yeah. It's just so deeply ingrained in me. And I guess, looking back, like, my parents just did what they wanted. That selfishness, like,
Yeah.
that is what I knew.
Yeah.
And that's, realistically, I have to say that, that's how it was. Like,
Learned behaviours. Yeah.
Yeah. And the relationship was good for a few years. We lived together. Then we had our son. And then there's periods where I was shutting down and I didn't know what was going on. After my son was born, we left and we moved to Brighton. Then we moved to Petersfield. And then I got in trouble again in Hampshire for beating up a pub landlord, and I was pub watched. In the countryside, the pubs are kind of your place to hang out, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly are.
And then that brought a lot of other stuff. We were young parents trying to work and hold things down.
So that's a few geographicals.
Few geographicals now under my belt.
Yeah.
The same problems everywhere I went. The same problems kept coming up everywhere we moved for me. I was feeling more and more suicidal all the time. I'd had a few rock bottoms. And after the landlord stuff, that is a jailable offence, hitting a publican. Luckily, he was quite good about it. I apologised and told him what was going on and that I was struggling and depressed, and I said I was going to get help, and he understood it because he had young children.
Yeah.
And I went to apologise in person. He said, no one's really done that before.
Yeah.
Mate, it was awful. I just wanted to die, And so that was when I first started having therapy, starting to be be open to being vulnerable and talking about the past, because I'd never told anyone, you know, where I was brought up, you don't talk about that, it's weak.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you're a man's man, you know. No one ever talked about anything like that, you know. So going to therapy was quite a big thing. I remember after my first session, my therapist, she's still my therapist today, just coming back from that first session and just feeling like the whole world had lifted off my shoulders and just slept for like a whole day.
Yeah.
It was just like this incredible feeling, I guess.
Is therapy something you'd ever been aware of before?
Before then,
Yeah.
I'd heard people talk about it,
Like
especially
the
in
films.
London, yeah, in the offices, yeah.
But yeah, did you know anyone who'd been through therapy or
No,
no?
not really. But and I still couldn't see that there was anything wrong with me.
Yeah.
It was only my partner was like, you know, you need to get some help.
Yeah.
I can see it. Like, it's only, that was, you know, I didn't ever speak to my parents enough when I lived at home to them to know that anything was off.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't telling them that, I've been out all weekend using and taking drugs, I'm feeling on a come down. You know, I'd just lock myself in my room and game and watch DVDs until it was time to go and do it all again.
Yeah.
You know, that unsociable behaviour that I have, I prefer to be on my own.
Yeah.
You know, my partner, she was, you know, helpful. She said, I think you need to get help. And we found this therapist through one of her friends. And I started seeing the patterns and understanding what depression was.
Yeah.
And that I've been depressed for years, and that I have PTSD, and that, you know, I've been through major traumas, dysfunctional childhood, you know, and then you start trying to accept that, and it's not that easy, you know. I found it hard. I felt a lot of guilt for some of the stuff that happened. You know, I felt like I didn't deserve to be here because of some of the incidents that had happened. I felt like, you know...
Survivor guilt.
Yeah. And mate, it just kept going round in those loops. I would feel all right for a bit on the medication. I'd drink heavily to mask the chronic pain. Yep. I'd commute to London to work for a few days, and I'd drink, you know, away from the family home. I'd do what I was always doing, drinking and using as much as I could before going back and trying to be a dad to a young baby and to be a partner and live this other life that I had no idea how to live, really.
And what did you do when you couldn't use? Did you have any other sort of like go-to sort of addictions that crept in, or were you outwardly aggressive, or?
Yeah, I was quite an aggressive in conflict, you know. Even with my partner, I can see now that I had a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was so defensive.
Irritability.
Yeah, irritability. Yeah. All of it. Like, if we were doing things, oh, man, I just snap.
Yeah.
Like, and I can see that now. It's the harm that I was causing by doing that, you know, was never intentional, but it's just, that was it. You know, the chronic pain, like, I just had no patience if the pain was high.
Yeah, I get all of that.
Yeah, and it's just like, I would just snap. I wasn't a very nice person to be around, but, you know, I was trying my best, not doing very well. And it was we moved again to where we are in the southwest. And things for me weren't getting any better. And, you know, I called time on the relationship, which was a hard thing to do with a young child, you know.
Yeah.
I think it was a bit out of the blue for my partner, you know. I didn't handle it very well. And then I was back back in it. We were in lockdown. I was staying sober while I was looking after my son, and then I was just hosing it all in the house on my own the minute he wasn't with me.
When you had no one to be accountable to.
Backed into the same patterns, yeah, mate. Smoking, drinking, using, like nobody's business.
Yeah. Is that and just avoiding being with self?
Yeah, like, because I didn't know who I was.
Just fucking unbearable, isn't it? Just being on your own, but all you want to do is be on your own.
Yeah. And all of my identity was drinking and partying. And, you know, that's who I didn't know who I was. I'd hide behind that mask and that persona to fit in any situation, good or bad, you know. And yeah, mate, and I just couldn't, mate, I just loved boozing as well. Like, I just loved boozing and boozing and boozing and boozing.
Yeah.
And then using and using and using and using. And, you know, it all comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
As soon as I had that first pint, I'd want to be, it was all, you know, I never really had that. As I think, you know, I never really had it like a drug of choice. I would take whatever there was. I just wanted more of everything the minute I started. It's like my addiction is more, ultimately.
Yeah, same.
Anything, whatever anyone had, I would whack it in my mouth without any thought, whack it in my arm or up my nose, you know.
Yeah. And
yeah, ultimately that catches up with you know. I moved again over this way where I am now, and I'd had more mental health issues, starting to understand and get more diagnoses. Like over the last 10 years, I've had so many different labels now, but I still couldn't accept it, mate. I was always having breakdowns, feeling suicidal, isolating, shutting down. But I felt like I needed to fix myself rather than accepting what had happened and why it was that. I was always looking to fix and then get burning out or getting angry because I couldn't figure it out. And yeah, mate, it's just this never-ending cycle, really.
Did any of those diagnoses help you in your understanding of self?
They do now.
Yeah.
Now I'm in recovery.
Yeah.
I've surrendered.
yeah.
I would be like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, cool, I've got these. And then I'd just go back to doing what I always did. And I guess the way that my brain works is I have to do things intensively or to the extreme for anything to stay.
Yeah.
And so like I do different therapies, you know, and I do it one week, and by the time the next week had come, I don't even remember the last session. Like, nothing, I wasn't making any real deep progress, I don't think. I was just knocking the skin off, leaving the session, the skin on the gravy boat is there again.
Yeah.
Knock the skin off, the week after, come back, knock the skin off. You know. And over those years, I just don't think I was making any progress healing on, you know. And I'd done a lot of deep work with my therapist at the beginning where I did make a lot of healing progress and understanding. But then there was the period in between after that where I thought I knew it all. I've done it all now, I'm sorted.
Yeah.
You know, but
fixed.
It's not that easy, is it?
No.
You know, and I had my therapist, people were telling me that I'm an addict, my therapist mentioning it, and, you know, and me just still choosing to ignore it. And then I guess I got in another relationship, which is when I'm accountable again and all of these patterns come up again, you know, and I'm starting to feel less than again because I feel like I'm being attacked and I'm doing things wrong and I can't, all of the same patterns, you know. I think you're drinking too, maybe you're an addict, maybe, you know, I think you've got ADHD, I think you might be autistic, you know, and it's like, oh, you know, I'm just like, fucking hell, I just want to get on with my life, you know. But then it was hard, and I started some treatment in 2024 with a psychiatrist, and it didn't go well. He gave me some more diagnoses that I'd already had, and I basically trialed. Something triggered me, and we were in relationship counselling in September 2023, and we did group sessions together talking about what was going on, because the relationship, was struggling. I was depressed. Things weren't going that well.
Yeah.
We realised, like, meeting at a later age, we both got baggage. I had children. My partner at the time didn't.
Yeah.
There's this whole minefield of trying to make it work.
Yeah.
And then between the sessions, we did one-on-ones.
Okay.
And we started talking about my relationship, my family, and did a family tree. And something like triggered me then. And I don't know, I went home to my hometown and spent the most time that I had since leaving. I walked the hills where I played, went to the streets around my grandparents, went to the beaches.
No way.
And I was just like, what is it? Like, there's something really affecting me in all of this, but I don't know what it is. And it's just started spiraling me from then, and trying to mask it, trying to hold a relationship, social life, especially over Christmas.
Yeah.
And it was just not getting any better. And I was isolating, and my partner was going to things on her own because I was having panic attacks, and I was anxious constantly. I couldn't be around people. And then when I started this treatment, we trialed ADHD medication for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
But because I was so depressed and I have dysthymia, when I took the ADHD medication, I become hyper-focused on the depression.
Yeah, okay.
And so things just went down and down and down pretty quickly. And I become so, like, depressed. I was suicidal. All I could think about was killing myself.
Yeah.
All day. I wasn't sleeping, barely sleeping.
All of those things add up to a horrible place.
So from January, but then to try all this new medication, I had to agree not to drink or use.
Yeah.
So I'd stopped on the January, whatever my clean day is.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't using, but I was also, as it got worse and worse, he kept putting my medication higher and higher. And I was basically, in the end, I was just tranquilized in the house. Like, I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't eating. I wasn't working. I wasn't functioning. I could get my son, but we weren't doing anything. I wasn't going out of the house.
Yeah.
My brother had to come and babysit. I told him I was suicidal, and I was like, didn't know what to do. He come and babysat me from the north. My cousin came, and it just spiraled. My partner had left to protect herself then, so I had no social support. I was just rotting away in my house.
Yeah.
And I met the sleep wasn't getting any better, and days and days and days I hadn't slept, and I'd called crisis down the road, not to say the place. I had a chat with her, and I was like, look, the only way I can see this ending, it's going on for too long, is killing myself. I'm going to kill myself. And so she organised another couple of sessions that I never went to, and then my psychiatrist just binned me off when I questioned something.
Oh, really?
And he was like, I can't help you, and he referred me to the home treatment team or whatever from the NHS. So when I called them, they were in Bridgewater, 2 hours away, and so they were like, we can't help you. And so I was just there, rotting away, despite me saying that I'm going to kill my life. I'm not in control of my thoughts anymore.
Yeah.
I've lost touch with reality. Like,
Yeah.
no one was seemingly rushing to come and, you know, help me. And I had this like suicide app with numbers on. I was calling those. No one was picking up.
Yeah.
I phoned my therapist. My therapist kind of said, "Look, this needs you need to go into treatment.
Yeah.
You're going to do something stupid." I'd written all my suicide letters.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'd done it all. I just had to. I was just so depressed that I couldn't be asked. Like, I couldn't leave the house. You know, it was like fucking hell. If I had the energy, I probably would have just went and noosed myself up and,
Yeah.
like, you know, but I was just like tranquilized in my house. I was like 9 stone, didn't have any energy, which is great, you know. Then, you know, my dad flew in, and the next thing, I'm going to treatment. And that's when I had to surrender. Like, I was on suicide watch in a facility.
So just treatment for any. So those who don't know, just quick overview. What is treatment?
So for me, there's treatment for addiction where you would detox and you would get clean, and, you know, you would work on yourself and you would build a foundation to go back into the world.
Yeah.
And then there's the mental health and psychiatry side of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I hadn't admitted I was an addict then, so mine was more psychiatry and mental health issues going into treatment. And a lot of the treatment centres around the UK that my family were trying to get me into were primarily addiction, and a lot of them are 12-step, you know. And so that wasn't the help that I needed at that time, because I'd abstained to do this treatment.
Yeah.
And so it turns out the only place that was available for me was a psych ward in central London called the Nightingale. And I obviously didn't want to go there. So I had a friend who, the last time I ever spoke to him, he told me not to go there. He'd been in there twice, and not that following Christmas he killed himself. That was the last thing he said to me, was to don't go in there. And so I ended up going to a treatment centre in Thailand that offered all of the therapies, trauma program, EMDR, TMS, like all of the things that I needed to try and figure this out.
Amazing.
And so the next thing I was getting, brother took me to the airport, put on a plane, then escorted off a plane by some rehab support staff and security, drove back to a facility, and yeah, treatment, mate. It feels like the Big Brother house, but everyone is insane.
So just like the Big Brother.
Yeah. But, you know, and it's intense and it's hard work. And if, you know, the one thing I said to my therapist when I got there, you know, he said, "Are you ready for it?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Look, like, you're here now. You want to make the most of it." And like after a day or two, I was like, right, mate, I was on suicide watch, mate. I was jet lagged. I hadn't slept in months, and I was like, "Look, mate, I will turn up to every session." This is what he said to me. He was like, "Mate, give it your all. Can you agree? You give it your all." And he said, at the end, "If you don't feel any better, then go home and kill yourself." and I was like, all right.
Okay.
Like we were not like, that wasn't professional advice, but that was where I was like, well, I'll do this, and then if it doesn't work, I can always go home and kill myself.
Yeah.
So I said it first, and then he was like, yeah, so just commit to it, surrender, and then if it doesn't work, then you can go home and do
a bit
that.
like when your dad said,
Yeah.
go. You
Yeah,
can always
yeah.
fucking come back and
And so I did. I didn't miss any sessions. I did all of the classes, the PT, the yoga. I went to every single session. I surrendered to my addictions. I surrendered to all of the labels that I have. I was like, this is last chance saloon, I need to do this for myself and for my son. I think my son was one of the other reasons why I didn't kill myself, essentially, because I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I remember my therapist here, she said to me, the pain doesn't go away if you kill yourself, it just gets passed to your son, and that's the one word, the one phrase that always has stopped me from doing it.
Mate, I mean, I feel that I was told, picture your daughter stood at your graveside.
Yeah.
Do you think you've saved her anything?
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah. And I think, so treatment was intense and it wasn't easy. There was ups and downs, but I did everything and learned so much about myself intensively. My therapist here said, I think that's maybe what you need to do it intense. And you know what? It worked to give me a good foundation to come home and for me to accept that I have to live my life a different way. My brain, I'm too unstable as an individual. I'm an addict. If I just glide through society, living with societal norms and socializing like everyone else seems to, my life isn't going to go well. And I did a lot of acceptance. I did a lot of radical acceptance in there. And
what's the hardest thing that you had to admit to yourself at that stage?
The hardest thing that I had to admit to myself was, one, that I'm an addict.
Yeah.
And that I can't do that anymore if I want to remain stable long term. And the other one is accepting that I am unstable.
Yeah.
And looking back at my life and realizing it's not been a particularly fruitful life. It's been in survival mode. I think that was hard to accept, that I've survived.
Yeah.
But it's also, a testament to my resilience. And
you did survive.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of acceptance, and I think this is the first time I'd spoke about my life in a group setting and getting peer feedback and professional feedback from therapists from all backgrounds and, specialties as such. And I think one of the things I found hard to accept is that my childhood was dysfunctional and there was trauma and neglect, and that was hard, and it's hard to accept that my relationship with my parents had to be different. Yeah. So, but there's a lot, mate. It's a lot. It's realizing your whole life has to change. It's a full-time job living this way.
Yeah.
Just to keep my head above water.
Yeah, totally.
It's just a struggle. There's no two ways about it. But it's, as I said at the beginning, I'm feeling the best I have since leaving treatments. The struggle's worth it to be present.
Yeah.
To be the best version of myself that I can. Like, I am going to have these struggles forever. There's always going to be triggers. But, being sober and clean, doing it, and, being present for my son, being present to do this.
Yeah.
Being, realizing that I don't have to stick to the job I've always done. Like, I can change what I want and try and live a more purposeful life.
Yeah, nice. So on that, we're going to explore some on this podcast, but I know you're into alternative therapy. So is treatment somewhere where you experienced a lot of alternative therapies, or is this something that you've sort of grown into?
I'd always tried alternative therapies anyway, because I was always, as I said, always trying to fix a problem
Yeah.
or find something that's going to make me whole or fill that hole inside of me,
Yeah.
make me feel normal. And so I'd always tried all sorts. But in going to treatment in Thailand, it was a perfect blend of East versus West, lots of holistic stuff.
Yeah.
But in the alternative therapies, I guess in a treatment centre, for people who don't know, you often do 2 group sessions a day. You eat together and you do a end of day check-in, and then you exercise and you're on the facility together doing different stuff. You have work to do for individual sessions, and you have to present like different things, your life. You do a life story. I did a step 1 to admit I was an addict. I went to my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting in treatment, and that was the first time I knew the game was up for me. And I knew where I was. It's the first time I felt safe in a long time in the world, was in that meeting with other addicts.
Yeah.
Which is like, I never thought I'd be saying that, but it was true. I just felt, I heard an American guy share his life story, and I was like, you know what, that's me. He's got my story.
Yeah.
And I knew that's what I needed to commit to it. Excuse me. Yeah, so you do the group sessions. I did EMDR. I did CBT, DBT. I think it's TMS or EMS, like it's a bit like the Clockwork Orange, where you get the electric shocks on your brain.
Why?
I did 40 or 50 sessions of that while I was there. I was like, I will try anything to feel well. What else did we do? Lots of meditating, in Thailand. Yoga every morning. Tai Chi. What else? The animal movement. I can't remember the name of it. Sound baths constantly, which, as you know, I've become a sound healing therapist, because that with someone with ADHD and autism, and that the crazy mind that you have, I can't be medicated for the ADHD because of the other conditions.
Yeah.
Using those bowls just calms. Like, I feel the benefit of those bowls immensely. Like, the power of them is incredible.
So which of these methods would you say surprised you the most?
I think the one that I couldn't get my head around, that has been, since coming home, my triggers of my traumas have been greatly minimised. They still come, but is the EMDR.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe like that was going to work.
Yeah.
I was just like, what the fuck? But mate, my triggers have my trigger, because I think with the way that my brain works, I wouldn't sit around dwelling on my past.
Yeah.
But something would deep inside me would be triggered out in people, places, and things, as they say in the 12 steps.
Yeah.
Something triggers me, and then I am in full panic mode,
Yeah.
And coming home, mate, I've had a couple of those, but not many, since using the EMDR to work through the major traumas.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's amazing, and I'd really love to do an entire episode on the EMDR.
Yeah,
I'd do it as well. I'm currently doing it right now. In fact, I've got a session today.
Yeah, and
it's crazy. It
is crazy, and then, but you never know. I guess with the shock, I think it's called TMS.
Yeah.
There's no way to show if it's working or not. But I left there feeling well and stable.
Yeah.
And I wasn't at a healthy weight when I left there. I went in there 9 stone, but I'd put on weight. Everything was progressing.
Yeah.
And I did an intense trauma program, which was good to talk. It was other people who'd experienced lots of major traumas.
Yeah.
and, you know, it wasn't everyone in the facility. And you got to share and be vulnerable and talk about them in the open and present your traumas.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd like presented it to trauma-informed therapists. My therapist was trauma-informed. He took the sessions with other guys. And yeah, like just presenting it and being confident and vulnerable. And I just surrendered, and I was like, fuck it, I chucked the towel in when I got there. I will do whatever it, after the first couple of weeks, I'll do whatever it takes to get well.
Yeah.
You know, my son sent me a letter. When that letter came, I was just like, I need to fucking get well.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, treatment is intense. It was intense. It wasn't. People are like, oh, you were in Thailand. I bet it was amazing.
Yeah, right.
I don't care where you are in the world. Treatment's not where you want to be.
You're not out at the full moon party, are you? You're doing a lot of work on yourself there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I was in there for 3.5 months, man.
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah. So left, come back home. You know, wow. What does that look like now? I did 90 meetings in 90 days. The day I left treatment, the psychiatrist and the therapist in the treatment centre said, if you don't stick to 12 steps, when you get back, you're going to be back here or dead.
Yeah.
And so that I did. It's the first time I've listened to other people. You know, I'm been removing myself as like being, you know, the keeper of my destiny.
Yeah.
And listening. I've surrendered. I live how the professionals tell me that I need to live. And it's, you know, I've been home for a year and a half coming up, and life's all right. It's been manageable. Not always, but, you know, I'm stable. I'm progressing. Progress, not perfection, as we keep saying.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been focusing on my recovery. I've not worked now for however long. I'm just starting to feel strong enough to go back to that in my recovery.
Nice.
As you said, like the sleep, that my mind snapping out of that hyper arousal it's been in for 2.5 years is like one of the final pieces in the puzzle.
Yeah,
you know,
so good, mate. So what are your priorities in life now, like versus beforehand?
So my priority now is myself.
Yeah.
You know, that was never a prior. I've destroyed my body, mate. I've broken every body, damaged everything. You know, I didn't care about myself.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, knowing now and knowing my codependent patterns, like I didn't care about myself. How could I care about anyone else in my life?
Yeah.
You know, it's all masks and faking it until you make it.
Yeah.
So, you know, prioritizing self-care and my recovery and what I need, and then my son.
Yeah.
You know.
So you need to be well and whole before you can even be capable of looking after anybody else.
Yeah. And that's like coming back. It's knowing that living a life in recovery in a bigger picture, like addiction for me is just part of the complex web of all of these psychiatric issues, neurodiversities, trauma, PTSD, chronic pain. You know, it's such a complex thing. Recovery on the whole is looking after myself in the way that works for me. And over the last 18 months, I've found a routine that works for me, and hopefully working and earning some money again at some point is the final piece to become a contributing member, upstanding member of society. Yeah. And, you know, that's kind of where I want to go. My priority is recovery, my son, being present for my son. And I want to be the best version of myself that I can be.
Yeah.
Because, as we said, I am resilient. I've been through a lot. I've survived. I'm here to share my story. Yeah. I'm here to show that it is possible, you know. Even a lot of people would have no idea. They think that I was just functioning and getting on where I was dying inside for my whole life, you know, and it's good to talk, to be open about it. Now I'm confident that I can be open about it and show there is hope. Like, you don't have to hold on to all that stuff.
Yeah, totally. What would you tell the version of yourself who thought you didn't need help back then? No.
What would I tell myself? I guess all you can say is, like, you ask for help. You know, help's there.
So hard though, isn't it?
You're not alone, yeah. Like, and listen to what people are telling you. People telling me at 19 that I shouldn't, you know, I'm going to kill myself with substances, and professionals, and I just ignored them because I thought I knew best. Ego, you know. I think being honesty, open-mindedness and willingness, like, if you can have those any time in your life, you know, that's going to be helpful. It took me a long time to get to that place. Yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah. What would you want someone still stuck in that addiction to hear from you?
I think, what would I want? I'd want there is another path. There is a way out of that cycle. You just have to, you know, recovery's not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted. It is an action program, but there is a new way of life which will, you know, my life today, you know, I feel 100% calmer and where I should be than I ever have in my life. I don't have to wear masks. I don't have to pretend to fit in. I don't have to be socialising. I'm more than happy to sit in my house. And, you know, I think there is a way. You know, there's always a way. There's help. You just need to ask. I think the thing with recovery is that no one can tell you to get into recovery. You have to make that decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you are struggling, look online for help. There's 12 steps. There's smart recovery. There's all kinds of things. Detox.
Okay, mate. One last one from me. If your story had a title, what would it be?
Be the tattoo on my leg. Smalltown boy.
Smalltown boy.
Yeah, because ultimately I was a small town boy, and it was my struggle, is those deeply ingrained, the generational traumas, the patterns, the culture is what affected my adult life. Those unbreakable patterns that are still there, some of them. And that's part of the healing journey now, is, you know, recognizing, having that self-awareness that I've never had. You know, I am a small town boy trying to make it in a world that I have no idea how to live or be a part of.
I like that, mate. That's good. All right. Well, I think we're about there.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, good.
Is there anything else you want to... Any words of wisdom you want to depart with us? Any other points you want to go over?
I just think, for anyone who is struggling, reach out, ask for help. Like, the help is there, and a new way of life is possible. You know, and if anyone, we have an email address. You know, if anyone is struggling and wants, we're not professionals, but if anyone just wants to chat, we have lived experience.
Yeah.
You know, whether I'm happy to chat with anyone.
Yeah, we can point you in the right direction, if nothing else.
Yeah. Just, you don't have to struggle alone.
Yeah.
I think that is the big... And live in hope, you know. All I have is hope. I live day by day, in the day, and be as present as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing the best I can.
Well, thank you, mate. Thank you for that. I know, you know, I did this last week, and I was exhausted afterwards. So thank you for your honesty. Thank you for departing your story with all of us. Yeah, we'll leave it there for today. But next episode,
what are we going to chat about? We're going to talk about recovery as a larger entity, aren't we? And what that entails for people who have no idea about it. I guess for both of us coming into a life in recovery, we knew very little.
Yeah.
I think the only things I knew about recovery was from Pete Doherty and rock stars who I'd read about.
Yeah, Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
And movies.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was actually a real thing, to be honest. I almost thought it was a movie thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll have some kind of what is recovery, what is a 12-step program, what's a sponsor, and, you know, just to give an idea for those who might need to pass that on or are intrigued. And yeah, we'll have our usual chat about random nonsense.
And yeah, we're still trying to get to grips with all of this, you know.
Yeah.
I think I'd hate to think how many you-knows I've just said in the last 2 hours on that.
Yeah. No, it's good.
But we're having fun.
Yeah, we are.
And we've had some good feedback on the message.
Yeah, loads of great feedback. Loads of random listeners all over the world as well.
Yeah.
America, Spain, Italy, France.
So it's great.
Yeah.
Any feedback, as we said, get in touch.
Yeah, even if you just want to give us some abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we're looking to get a few guests on as we continue on, as this podcast evolves. We want to share that hope that we both now experience in our lives.
Yeah, and shed some lights on some other parts of recovery and treatments and therapies and all that good stuff. All right. Well, we'll play us out then. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.
More to take, more to chase, more to numb, more to escape. More screens, more pills, more noise, more thrill. We wanted more, we lost ourselves. We paid the cost, the deeper we delve. Always more. Until it breaks.